What's up, family? What's up? Oh man, if you are live and joining us from wherever you are, that was Nellie Tiger. She is from Mound Bayou, Mississippi. We're about to have a conversation today about the Mississippi Delta. This conversation is a part of Black History Bootcamp 21-day walking meditation series. I am your girl, Vanessa. I get to get on the line every day and walk and talk with my girl, Morgan. Are you there, Morgan?
I'm here. I was like, wait, doing Robert.
Right? That was Nellie Tiger. And we're going to end with Nellie Tiger. I just discovered Nellie Tiger, y'all. That was called Backing It Up. Nellie Tiger from Mound Bayou, Mississippi. We're even going to end with her because I love her so much. I know it sounded like some Robert Small, South Carolina down there, but it wasn't. It's Mound Bayou, Mississippi. It's the Mississippi Delta, and it's a perfect conversation for today's call, Morgan, because we're in our last week of Black History Bootcamp, and it's also right up against Thanksgiving. We're about to bring you in anyways, y'all, so star 9. Almost this entire conversation is going to be an opportunity. I'm going to tell the story of Mound Bayou, Mississippi. It's one of the dopest, most prosperous Black towns at one point in America. I'm going to tell that story because today's question is buy Black or sell out. And if you are getting ready to do any shopping over this holiday weekend, any Black Friday shopping from a Black business that we could support, we want you to shout out those Black businesses, but we're going to talk about Mound Bayou and the illustrious history of this beautiful Black town. Are you back, Morgan?
Yeah, I'm back. You know, I love me, Mississippi. I'm from Crenshaw, Mississippi, baby. That's what y'all need to know. I'm from Crenshaw, Mississippi. I represent that Crenshaw, but it's a different Crenshaw.
But do you know about Mound Bayou? Do you even know where it is?
I don't know nothing about that. No, we didn't have no prosperous Mound Bayou. We had Crenshaw, Mississippi. It was different.
Oh my God. Well, to set the stage, Morgan, the wind just blew here and these beautiful, beautiful trees are blowing their beautiful leaves. So let's set the stage, y'all. And if you're from Mississippi, especially star 9, this is about you. If y'all got Black businesses you want to support, I love the story of Mound Bayou because we know the story of Black Wall Street, Morgan. We even know the story of Nicodemus, Kansas. We know the story of I'm thinking of the beach town down in Florida that we were just talking about. We know lots of stories. We know the story of Martha's Vineyard. We know lots of stories. American Beach, yes. We've told lots of stories of prosperous Black towns. This is a story I didn't know, and it's a story that is juicy because it is about selling out. It's about a little bit of betrayal. It's about what do we do to protect ourselves and whether or not it makes sense to go with the flow or not. And it's also a story that I think sets up the opportunity for anybody out there who wants to shout out a Black business since we're getting ready to lead into the Thanksgiving holiday to do it. But Morgan, Mound Bayou, Mississippi it's on Route 61. It's right outside of Cleveland, Mississippi. Mississippi got a lot of names that are other cities, but then are part of their name. That's what I've been noticing. So Crenshaw, Mississippi, Cleveland, Mississippi, but it's very near Cleveland, Mississippi, and it's about 25 miles south of Clarksdale, Mississippi. It is deep in the Mississippi Delta. It is the home of blues. When I started to learn about Mound Bayou, and then I was like Googling about the musicians, so many of the musicians who are in Chicago and who went all over and became really famous came up and down from this area of Mississippi. So it's super rich with history. I got to get my notes together though for this, y'all. Hold on. All right, Morgan. Morgan, what's your favorite place to buy Black online?
Crenshaw, Mississippi. We get them pickles at that corner store. I remember I used to go there when I was little. It's next door to the juice joint. And they used to be like, that's Eddie James, baby, right there. That's Eddie James, baby. And I used to be like, I am Eddie James, baby. Okay, my favorite place to buy Black. Well, Vanessa, I be halftime in Ghana. Everything here is Black.
That's
so
true.
That don't count.
That's true. You're right.
That don't count. Back home, I live in a Gullah Geechee community, and there's also a lot of Black stuff. I like going to Black restaurants. Like, you know, my favorite restaurant on St. Helena Island is Seaside Bar and Grill. Shout out to Seaside Bar and Grill. I like to go to Seaside. What about you?
I buy a lot of stuff online. So I love the head wraps from this girl, Fam Jam. It's like FAMDJAM. I think it's Fam Jam. I love her head wraps. I'm just thinking about her. We both love Kiss the Bee. They do body products. I was thinking about them. And I bought a bunch of stuff from them recently. And then I like Black Market Vintage. I buy a lot of. Yeah, Kiss by the Bee. They have this good old body butter. I turned several of my friends onto it, actually. And my one girlfriend was smelling so good when she was wearing it. And I was like, what is that? Yeah. And then I like Black Market Vintage. I do buy some stuff from them.
They made us some signature perfume. And they done messed up and gave me Vanessa's and then gave me mine. I was like, if you don't take this Vanessa perfume away from me, this don't smell like me. Yours was good, though. It was good. It was different. It was good, though. I like Black Market Vintage, too. I love them so much. They were just on Good Morning America or something. Did you see them?
I did see them.
Yeah. They're so awesome.
All right, Morgan, it's 1887. Mississippi Delta down where Mound Bayou is heavy swampland down there. They call it the Yazoo Delta. This is right after Reconstruction had failed. And that's 2 decades after the Civil War. And after the troops have withdrawn from the South and after they had abandoned the Black folks that they had said that they were going to protect. Violence was surging all over. By the 1880s, lynchings had become commonplace all over the South. Jim Crow laws were beginning to be institutionalized, and Black landowners were being forced into sharecropping at large numbers. Enter in two powerful Black men, Morgan. One's name was Isaiah Montgomery. He was born an enslaved man, and he was enslaved by none other than a man's name you just called, Jefferson Davis. He was enslaved by Jefferson Davis at Davis Bend, Mississippi, on his plantation there. His father, Benjamin Montgomery, was a craftsman, an inventor, a land manager, and he eventually was able to buy some land, which is where Isaiah went to live. Somehow he got freed and he left Davis Bend and he went to live with his father for a little while. Then Isaiah Morgan
he got freed by the Civil War.
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 Robert Small.
And Robert Small. He got freed by the Civil War. That's an important thing. Important note. He got freed, Morgan, and he hooked up with a guy named Benjamin Green. And he and Benjamin Green, Morgan, had a vision that they could escape the terror, escape the lynching, escape the Jim Crow laws, and that they could build a Black utopia. When they went out to decide where they would build this Black utopia in Mississippi, they were so terrorized. They were trying to get so far away from the dominant white people out there that they went deep into the swampland, into an area that people said couldn't be farmed, that they said couldn't be built on. They said was too hospitable. And they said, we're going to turn this swamp into a sanctuary. And that is the very, very beginning story of Mound Bayou, Mississippi. And I like to start there because some of us have some swamps in our lives that could still be turned into sanctuaries. And I loved thinking about that they went to this place that was inhospitable, that they went to this place that people said couldn't thrive, and they end up making it thrive. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So they went there, Morgan, and they started to literally clear the entire swamp. They literally start to build elevated mounds on top of the swamp, which is why it's called Mound Bayou, Mississippi. And they planted their little first flag there, literally the two of them. From 1887 to 1890, 300 people, Morgan, joined them there in Mound Bayou, Mississippi.
Why that flag got to be little, Vanessa? I'm going to ask you. It's just like I
don't even know if they had a flag. I don't know. And it maybe not be little, but I like to think of it.
It's like in your imagination, it was a little flag.
They plant their little flag because it sounds humble. That's why it kind of sounds humble. It's just like, you know what? Like, we're just going to go here. Exactly. So they went there, Morgan, and so they drained the swamps by hand, by the way. They built all their homes of course, by hand. They created farms in this place. And by 1890, 300 people were living there, and they were governing themselves entirely. They had set up their own schools, set up their own churches. It was a fully self-sustaining economy, Morgan, with all their own businesses there. And he said, somebody had asked him about it. He said, we built for the life that others thought was impossible. So that was the vision for Mound Bayou that I want you to hold now that we get into what happened when Isaiah sold out, y'all. And this is the story of Black Friday and why I asked you, Morgan, about what businesses are you going to support. So I want you to imagine that it was a hub of economic power by the 1900s. Mound Bayou is flourishing. I'm talking about they got the Black-owned banks. They had set up cotton gins. They had the general store. The farmers, Morgan, were some of the most successful farmers in Mississippi. They were even selling their crops all over and outside of the South. And the town became a model of prosperity. This is actually 10 years after Nicodemus and 15 to 20 years before Black Wall Street. So just placing it for everybody in the context of when this actually happened. So enter a man, Morgan, named Charles Banks. Charles was a businessman, a political leader, and he was really prominent in Mound Bayou. He was also the editor, Morgan, of the Mound Bayou newspaper. Now, do you know who he was building a partnership with down there and who was heavily investing in Mound Bayou? Our boy, Booker T. Washington. Did you know, obviously you hadn't heard of Mound Bayou, maybe you didn't know. But Booker T. Washington actually heavily invested into Mound Bayou. He brought philanthropy to Mound Bayou. He brought leaders and thinkers to Mound Bayou to actually lift it up as a powerful place and example of what like Black businesses could actually do and what a thriving equal economy could actually do on its own. He also, Morgan, was heavily uplifting the Mound Bayou school system. It was a school system that, to Booker T, which was kind of his philosophy, they didn't just emphasize education, but they were heavy into trades there. So he was in Mound Bayou also helping them to build up the trade schools and the areas that were in Mound Bayou, which, by the way, I really believe, and I know I'm not the only one who believes, that we need to invest more in now. And I think especially when we're thinking about technology, I read this thing that said on the other side of technology is going to be all of the people who genuinely know how to work with their hands and do building and actually do things that are also going to be the powerful force. And yet we've pushed so many of our kids just into like intellectual jobs instead of actually building type of jobs.
I want to say that I love the way you say Mound Bayou. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Every time you say it, I just get so much life. I'm like, please hear this song. I said song because it kind of sounds like a song when you say it, but you tearing this story up with Mound Bayou. Like, I never heard about
Mound Bayou. But you ain't never gonna forget it. You ain't never gonna forget it. I know.
It's so cool. It's so cool. It reminds me of Eatonville, where Zora Neale Hurston's father started. There are all these little towns where these like entrepreneurial men and women decided we only really need 2-3 blocks. You know what I mean? And it's funny that I mentioned the pickle store in Crenshaw because that's all Crenshaw was. It's 3 blocks and 2 of them was my family. You know what I mean? And it's just like, but it had a gas station, it had a store on the corner, it has this other stuff. And I'm saying part of this is right sizing your dreams a little bit around what your locus of control is. And like with just 3, 4, 5 blocks of people, you could work magic. You could provide all the food you need, the education system, a 1-room schoolhouse. Like, I think a little bit, I am personally going more local and thinking about like what's in my locus of control. But I am also, I know it's very like bumper sticker sounding. I'm also thinking about like what global value systems I have and like how I want to impact my life to impact things. Like, I want to own fewer clothes. I want to buy from local female Black businesses. I want to spend my time with people who are values aligned. Like these things that are not like quite as ambitious as I used to be, but I think are more profound around living my healthiest, most fulfilled life. So I love this story. I love that they built up. I love that they have farmers. I love George Washington. I mean, Booker T. Washington. They're kind of the same person in my mind, but I love Booker T. Washington and George Washington Carver, that they were supporting this. So let's keep going. It's good.
Yeah, I loved what you said too, and I was pausing because at one point there's an angle of this story where I was going to say gratitude or glory, and I was just thinking about this season that we're in terms of gratitude, because there's going to be a shift in the town based on some decisions that Isaiah makes, and some people thought that he didn't have gratitude for what they actually had there. There were some people who say no, he had such deep gratitude for it that he was trying to protect it. But then there were some people who said he was going for the glory of this promise of what these white folks had there. But all of it is really important to me, these independent decisions that you're talking about, especially as we're leading into this season of like gratitude right now and leading towards the end of the year. This Black History Boot Camp, I hope is helping everybody to really think thoughtfully about the choices and decisions we make. One of the decisions that they made, Morgan, as a town, an essential one that I think we sometimes often forget when we're thinking about these kind of Black cities or these economic hubs or things that we can do, is they invested heavily into a hospital. And healthcare actually in those other towns, actually research, it was, when I went back to look, they don't talk about like what the healthcare system was in Eatonville. They didn't actually talk about like what healthcare resources were available on Black Wall Street in Tulsa. But this actually founded by the Knights and the Daughters of the Tabor, which is a fraternal order. Shout out to all the fraternal orders. We know how to organize the system of fraternal orders. I had never heard of them, but they founded something called the Taborian Hospital, Morgan, and it was one of the first Black-owned hospitals in the United States, and it was in Mound Bayou. And it provided affordable care to the residents of all across the Mississippi Delta, and it also trained Black doctors and nurses, creating opportunities for them in an era, of course, where it was really hard for Black folks, of course, to get access and gain access to healthcare. So I loved hearing that they had founded a Black hospital, and I love especially that we are thinking about healthcare in our systems. I'm pausing, y'all, because I got a notification from Morgan that she dropped, and I want to give her a second to come back on to this story. I hope you guys are loving this Mound Bayou story. Irene, let me know if anybody *9s to share any Black businesses we could bring them on while we're waiting for Morgan.
I'm here. I'm here.
All right. All right, Morgan. Did you hear what I said about the hospital? Because that was important since we're in healthcare.
Oh, it just went silent on my side. I'm so sad. I want to hear about the hospital. I'm so sorry. Everybody got to listen in. I just really want to hear. Okay, so I'm going to go back and listen to the recording. Keep going.
No. It's super simple. I'll start right there, which was saying that they built one of the first Black hospitals in the United States, and that it was founded by the Knights and the Daughters of Tabor. And I was saying that if you research around the infrastructure of all of the other Black towns out there, there wasn't as much emphasis on healthcare as infrastructure. So even when we're talking about the global values or the world we want to live in or the things we want to create, even as we're talking about like this post-election world, like thinking about care and healthcare and how we care for each other is important. And they didn't just build up a hospital, but they trained Black doctors and Black nurses there. And they said that actually, they said they were training Black doctors and nurses. I love this. They said, this is a quote, "Healthcare wasn't just a service, it was an act of resistance and a declaration that Black people deserved care." And that is literally the continuation of, or Girl Trek is continuing like that work in so many regards. But Morgan, I need to fast forward because Mound Bayou was successful all up until, and this is what needs to happen. This is what y'all need to know. Even Medgar Evers, actually, Morgan went there. Medgar Evers worked heavily down in Mound Bayou as the NAACP field secretary. It was actually his first, assignment down there. But Mississippi, being the historically racist place that it was, Morgan, didn't want to let Mound Bayou thrive. And Mississippi was organizing around a new Mississippi Constitution. A new Mississippi Constitution, Morgan, that would disenfranchise Black voters all across the state. And they went to Isaiah, who was the head and working at Mound Bayou, and they asked him to actually vote in favor, come down to where they were organizing this Mississippi Constitution, Morgan, and they asked him to vote in favor of this disenfranchisement, although it wasn't as obvious, by the way, that it was going to severely disenfranchise as much people as it did, with the promise of it would economically protect Mound Bayou. Now, we know that promises like that and the idea that, you know what, I'm going to just protect my family, protect my little bit over here, protect my town over here, and somehow what's happening at the larger systems won't impact me, those ideas and promises rarely work. That ability to like shepherd or shield ourselves barely works. So there was a ton of backlash, Morgan, against Isaiah, against Benjamin, and against quite frankly, Mound Bayou, because Mississippi was able to disenfranchise those voters, and Isaiah and Benjamin were not able to maintain the economic independence and freedom that Mound Bayou had. And as part of what they were doing and organizing in that Constitution, they secretly then put in a lot of like tariffs and a lot of economic restraints that actually isolated and cut off Mound Bayou from being able to sell a lot of its goods, from being able to access a lot of other services outside. And quickly after that decision where Isaiah went for this disenfranchisement of the rest of the state, the city and the state area of Mound Bayou started to go into economic decline, Morgan. And it would be a sad story if it was the last part of the story, but it's not the last part of the story because it is having a renaissance right now.
This goes back to what you were saying around sacrifice when we were talking about check or turn it off. And you were like, we could have some collective organizing and boycotts and economics if we were willing to suffer a little bit for the long game. And that's, you know, it's like you think you're going to get some tax breaks, or you think you're going to get some new shiny streets or whatever, but to trade off and to leverage your independence and your liberation for it and your children's future for it is like, we got to be careful with that even now. Like, I mean, everything from climate change to policies around education to all these things, we have to hold the line now for future generations. I can't wait to hear the end because that's so sad.
Well, first of all, what you just said is so important, because when I was reading about Mound Bayou, they said the collapse of Black political power and a blueprint for Black disenfranchisement. So literally they were saying that what they did, and if imagine like when we were talking about, I can't remember where we brought in the story of Stacey Abrams, but on one of the stories when you were talking about the documentary of Stacey Abrams, you were saying it's a textbook playbook. And this playbook actually effectively dismantled, they dismantled the political structure there, economic gains there, the social structure there. It was deep in the way that they actually do it. And the goal of the overall Constitution was to, without directly violating the 15th Amendment, Morgan, of course, they wanted to deny the voting rights of those people there. And they went about it in such intentional ways, but using a carrot of economic opportunity for this town. And so the deep connection between our economic freedoms, and this is a part of the conversation right now, even with Donald Trump, which is like people saying that they're voting because of the economy, and then people on the other side saying, is it even possible for us to have a thriving economy if we have so much inequalities and stuff? So the other side of the story, Morgan, is actually Girl Trek, and it's what's possible right now. So there really is no other side of the story, except that Medgar Evers was down there deep in the civil rights organizing, that the NAACP was deep down there organizing, and that now Girl Trek is about to be deep down in the South organizing. It's why I loved even having this call as we're leading into Thanksgiving as one of the conversations, because this is about what our vision is for what is possible. And Isaiah had a vision. He had a vision around the type of schools that they were going to have. He had a vision for the type of healthcare they were going to have. He had a vision. So even though he got detracted and off track, and even though he bought into a larger idea, it is the fact that he had the vision that the swamp could be the sanctuary that is the part of the story that I actually want us to hone into as we think about what's possible for the future, which is even when we're talking about where Black people are going to go, and there's so much conversation around if we should leave the country, if it's going to be a Black to the South movement, and maybe you even have to stay in place, but wherever it is we're going to do, we have to have an essential vision for what it is that we want to bring about in the world. And we have that even aligned now in our 7-point joy and justice agenda, which I'm really excited by.
Yeah, and like the difference between entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship is maybe something for us to think about, that we might not have to move to a swamp where we have physical isolation off the grid, but we may just need to have like 2 or 3 blocks of our community unify around the kind of neighborhood that we want. You know what I mean? Like it can be kind of the equivalent of entrepreneurship, where you're living in cities. They're affected by those policies, but there are certain things that you have under your locus control as a 2 or 3 block community. So
yeah. Oh man, I don't have anything more for the story of Mound Bayou, y'all. Just a story of possibility for the people there in the Mississippi Delta. I was doing some research on the life expectancy facts there and the economic outcomes for the folks there, and I was just excited to think about what's going to happen over the next 10 years as we bring about that vision. It really was. You have anything else, Morgan, for the people on this Black History Boot Camp? Y'all, we're in the end. I'm sorry to make the story much longer.
No, I don't. I know of the city. And I love these small towns. I love Nicodemus. I was at the African American Museum and I saw like an original sign from Nicodemus, Kansas. And I was just like, I love that Black people are like going and doing their thing. And there's, it makes me feel very grateful for places that are still, like South Carolina, all these different little small towns, like that you can drive through if you just get off the main road, that are still like, these one street towns. And just my imagination for what those can become. We're at a refounding moment in America where we're going to decide what the American dream actually is. And if it is, in fact, still life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, let's get after it. Yeah. And some of these towns have like these beautiful homes and like these parks, and they're like completely not, like vacant, because a highway like, shifted business to the other towns or whatever. They're vacant, but like, I just, people like your friend Joaquin with Africa Town, I just want different people to like broaden their vision around what's possible for our living arrangements and what's possible for collective living, particularly as the number of children that particularly Black women are having is going down. And we'll have a lot of Black women who are living longer, right? And so how do we, like, what does it look like for us to build community with our sisters and with our families, with our husbands and our grandparents and generations and our children, our great-grandchildren? Like, what does it actually look like to have a community? So this has been a good blueprint for that.
It has been. I think we have a caller who joined us on the line. Hold on, I'm going to say hello. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Good morning. Good afternoon, sister. You there?
Good afternoon. Yes, I'm here.
Hi there. Join the conversation.
Hi.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, hi, my name is Carla, and I'm calling from Baltimore, Maryland. And I wanted to just spotlight a Black business. It's a woman-owned business. I believe she's out of Philadelphia. She does athletic activewear for women. And her products are amazing. It's called FBF Body. So it's fbfbody.com. But her activewear, I've been wearing it for, I guess, about 4 years. During the pandemic, I discovered her. She's been in business, I want to say 12 or 13 years. And she is thinking about going on to another phase. But for any woman who walks, works out, or just wants to be comfortable and travel, her clothing is amazing. I travel in it, I work out in it. The leggings don't come down regardless of your shape and size. And I think she goes from a size small up to a 3X.
Oh, I love you for sharing that, especially because it's gear, especially that women can use right now who are out there active and moving. So thank you so much for calling in and for sharing that Black business.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you all too for Girl Trek, your movement. I love it. Devon here in Baltimore is just amazing, and I'm just so thankful to be a part of the Girl Trek community.
Yeah, Siobhan is amazing. Thank you, sister. I would be remiss, Morgan, if I didn't shout out that as people are thinking about Black businesses, that girltrek.org has a store and that we have many Superhero Blue products that you guys can get outfitted in, and promise to be expanding our offerings as well to support you all. So we're about to be thriving out here, y'all. All right, family. This has been a happy, very short 30-minute. We got our 30 minutes in. That's what matters. We're moving 5 minutes, 30 minutes today. You're a live walk. We are going to be on the line tomorrow, and then we are going to be taking a break for Thursday and Thanksgiving, but you'll get an email in your inbox to walk you through. As everybody, we've heard from so many of you who are doing Black Family 5Ks this Saturday. So we will be walking Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday live at noon Eastern. Anything else, Morgan? Otherwise, we're going back to my sister Nellie to close us out.
No, I can't wait. Bring it on back.
All right, back it up.